The new asset leasing feature for Dynamics 365 Finance helps to ensure that IFRS 16 and ASC 842 accounting standards are being followed to reduce risk while automating complex calculations and eliminating time-consuming offline processes. If we go to the Asset Leasing module, under Lease Summary, we can view all leases that we have in the company. By clicking on a lease ID, we can access essential information related to the lease contract, including the fair value of the asset, the incremental borrowing rate, the lease term, asset useful life, lease currency, and an associated vendor ID that will be paid to each month. We can also associate a fixed asset ID if we want to track your lease in the fixed asset register. And then we also have the lease group, commencement date, and exchange rate, as well as period intervals for the monthly payment amounts. If editing a lease that has no posted transactions, the system recognizes that the lease has been modified and provides a notification that we need to regenerate the books. When we regenerate the lease books, the system will then take 3 important actions. First, it will perform the lease classification test to identify the lease type. The system identifies from multiple lease types: a finance lease, an operating lease, a short-term lease, or a low-value lease. Let's look at the second action. When we create books, the system will automatically calculate the initial right-of-use asset value, which is a complicated calculation in the leasing business. This helps us to calculate the lease present value. There are a lot of variables in this calculation based on the annuity type, the compounding interval, if there are additional asset considerations like initial direct costs or lease incentives, and so on. Now we can move to payment schedules to review the calculated present value and ensure everything looks correct, and then we'll confirm the schedule. The liability amortization schedule shows the calculated interest that will be added every month to the lease liability. The $22,888 represents the beginning balance, and it is equal to the initial lease liability. When calculated out, the system shows us that our monthly payment will be $1,000, and the current interest is 91.2. We also have the asset depreciation schedule, which uses the depreciation straight line calculation to determine the depreciation amount that will be posted each month. Next, we will generate the initial recognition entry. This transaction is debiting the right-of-use asset and crediting the finance lease liability. These accounts come from the posting profile of the asset leasing. Once we have posted this transaction and the lease status is open, and we are ready to post the subsequent transaction's payments, lease amortization schedule, interest expense, and depreciation. Now we can create and post a payment journal. In the Asset Leasing Journals form, the system is storing all associated journals to the lease ID in one place. In the same way, we will also create and post the journal for interest expense, as well as depreciation. Now we can check the asset transactions. We have the initial recognition and right-of-use depreciation, along with the asset balance at the very bottom of the screen. We also have the same for the liability transactions, including the initial recognition, the lease payment, and the interest expense, as well as the lease liability balance at the bottom. A lease can include more than one book based on the lease group setup. If we move to the lease group and go to Books, we find that we have 2 books for this particular group. We can also note that posting layer is supported in the event that a customer wants to report differently, either for tax purposes or for reporting purposes. Asset leasing also supports dual currency with the ability to set exchange rates for both accounting and reporting currencies. Now, if we move to asset depreciation, future depreciations will always be posted in the historical exchange rate that was established at the commencement date. This is different than the payments and interest, since both of these will take the spot rate, which is the rate as of the posting date. Here we can select to view both the accounting currency and reporting currency columns. We have additional transactions like adjustment, index revaluation, as well as the ability to impairment. All monthly transactions could be posted from periodic batch journals. This can be run across legal entities and by schedule type, and we can identify if we want to post the journal or just create the journal for review. There is also a set of reports for disclosures that are used for financial reporting and operational reports like lease movements, modifications, commencements, and so on. The Asset Leasing module for Dynamics 365 Finance helps accountants better manage their leases and the financial interest behind them, while automating complex calculations to save time and effort.